So now one of the things you've been writing about that's pretty big is the whole cannabis thing, right? I mean, this is exploding on the scene.
Yes.
And it's multifaceted, right? Because you've got the moral issues of people saying, this is drugs. It's
Right.
the mad reefer days, from that mentality. To the people saying, my God, this is a miracle for so many people and how it's helping them in their life. And there's all derivatives from medical marijuana to CBD oil and how people are utilizing that, and hemp oil and stuff that is legal to trade everywhere. Stuff.
Yeah.
And you got fights between what the federal posture is on this versus the individual states. So it's exciting, but it's also sort of like, wow, who can try to predict where this is going to end up? So how do you handle it when you write about it?
It's such a greenfield literally greenfield opportunity right now.
Yeah.
It's like ground level. The closest thing I could compare it to is when the internet was just starting out, right? Mm-hmm. And you had all these new companies, and people made fantastic, before the bubble popped, right?
Right.
Fantastic gains on those things. I think we're at that stage. We're still at that stage right now. There's companies that are not going to make it. There's going to be a lot of them. Mm-hmm. A lot of pets.coms out there. Mm-hmm. And there's some that are going to be the next Amazons and Googles and stuff like that of cannabis. On the moral side, I'm a big proponent of, I'm a very liberty-oriented person in that sense. Alcohol and tobacco are illegal, and they're not necessarily good for you if you don't use them, and if you don't use them in moderation, right? I think cannabis is probably in the same camp. It's not despite all the fear-mongering of the past decades, it's not a truly dangerous drug. I mean, we know this. Mm-hmm. We've known it for a long time. I think it's been kind of a travesty. We've put so many people in prison that were otherwise law-abiding citizens.
Right.
They're not engaged in any kind of violence or anything like that. It really wrecked a lot of lives. We spent billions of dollars fighting the market, and in the end, market always wins. People want something, they're going to get it one way or another.
And that's an interesting thing, as you're saying, is the market wins, because exactly, there's always a market for it, legal or illegal.
Yeah.
And eventually, the market won out on this one, and it's unfolding right now that the market continues to win out.
So what I think is we've had here in the United States is, for many, many years, a very dedicated, relatively small group of people that have been pushing the issue. And they have gradually changed the opinion of the majority. It started with medical. There's been so many amazing stories on the medical side, just life-changing stories. And it's just a profound stupidity. We've been sitting on this for so many years, and who knows the stuff we'd have right now if we had allowed at least more medical research. Mm-hmm. So I think on the medical side is where people said, how can we not let others have access to this if it helps them? It's not humane.
Right.
But that, so that's the gateway drug to the recreational side, right? They always called marijuana the gateway drug to the hard stuff, although there's evidence now that it's the exit drug from the hard stuff. There's some evidence of that. So people have become more relaxed. We've actually got majority of the country now thinks that recreational should be okay. Mm-hmm. What we've seen in the United States for quite a few election cycles now is we see ballot initiatives. And state after state after state, my own state, Florida, in 2016, finally allowed medical. Mm-hmm. I've seen it help family members with different autoimmune conditions and things like that. So we've seen states going medical, and then we have a smaller number of states that are allowing adult use or recreational use. There's a lot of problems with implementation right now, especially at the federal level. Mm-hmm. Where it's still a highly restricted substance. It's such a bizarre situation. So you've got the National Institutes of Health that holds a patent on cannabinoids because of their medical neuroprotective properties.
The NIH can have its own patents?
Yeah, well, they do, and then they license those patents. A lot of good stuff comes out of the NIH.
Wow, but isn't that kind of strange? Because that means they're in the when they license it, are they making a profit from the license, or how does that work?
They can. I mean, I don't know the whole story of how the NIH licenses out some of the stuff it discovers. A lot of the stuff it discovers is really, really, really early stage. So if they license it to a pharmaceutical company, they got to do the hard work. So they discovered this drug target or this mechanism. They maybe even discovered a molecule that does something very interesting that might alter a disease state. So
Well, this is interesting because if it's tax dollars that funded the NIH,
Yeah.
and they create patents, that should be public property where anybody should be able to use it. I mean, from a libertarian standpoint,
that's
at least.
true, but who's going to spend $200 million bringing this idea to market?
Well, I get it, but now anybody should be able to utilize the IP. Is my point, as compared to them, being able to decide what company gets to use this and what doesn't.
In a perfect world, that might be true, but if you don't have exclusivity, it's very unlikely that you're going to invest
the money to take it to market.
And take all the risk on.
Yeah.
Because from discovery stage through to market, more than 90% of the stuff here never makes it. It's plausible, it looks good, but it'll fail in early trials or in mid-stage, or heaven forbid, even in late stage after you've spent 5-10 years and you've put tens of millions of dollars in.
So this is interesting. So from the investment standpoint, so now we've got what we're looking at environmentally in this, and I'm talking about the financial or investment environment. You've got literally a federal government who's had this great opposition to marijuana. Now, but yet the federal government holds patents on uses.
It's like one hand and the other not knowing what they're doing, right?
They're operating independently.
So the DEA says this is a highly dangerous substance with no known medical applications.
Right.
And then you got the NIH that holds a patent on the neuroprotective properties of cannabinoids.
Right.
So it's just bizarre.
It's bizarre. So we can go with the people who've done the science, and we can go with the people who just have hysteria that they've inherited.
Yeah, and the thing is, government bureaucracies, after a while, they become self-serving.
Right.
And their biggest job is to continue to exist and to grow.
Yeah.
And for the DEA to willingly reschedule or remove, marijuana is listed up there with heroin and cocaine.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
all this kind of stuff.